All right. Hello. Thank you all for joining today. This is our webinar, Don't Get Played by the Product Demo, presented by 1/10 Consulting. First and foremost, I want to thank all of you for participating today. I know there's many different ways you could be spending your time, and we're very appreciative that you are spending your time with us today for this session. This presentation here was originally designed for the NTC conference that was scheduled to be held in March. As most of you know, that the conference was canceled. So we thought it might be a good idea to record our session and make it available both on our website as well as a few other sources out there. I know this is not the same as being in person for the NTC conference, but hopefully the learning and the information exchange can still continue. A little bit about myself before we jump into the content. My name is Ruben Singh. I've been in the nonprofit sector for many years now, and I've had the good fortune to work with some of the most impactful nonprofits in the country throughout my career. And in that process, one of the many things that I learned is that the conventional consulting models don't always work in the best interest for nonprofits. So as a result, about 2 years back, I decided to start 1/10 Consulting. We're a full service strategy and technology practice, consulting practice that works exclusively with nonprofits. And our goal is simple, that the technology alone is not a solution. You need the people, the process, and the technology to all be aligned in order to move your mission forward. So enough about me. Let's move on to the content for today's presentation. Today, I've called this Don't Get Played by the Product Demo. So what's this all about? I've participated in hundreds of product demonstrations, and I've been on all sides of it. I've delivered them as a vendor, I've received them as a prospect, and I have coordinated them on behalf of my on behalf of my customers as a consultant. And far too many times, I've heard my customers say, well, it looked really great in the demo, it looked really easy, it looked really seamless, but this product didn't work out for us in the end. And oftentimes, you feel like you were sold a lemon from this guy here in the picture. And to be truthful, there are some things I've seen sales reps do during demos that are sometimes questionable. In other cases, they're just misleading. And in other cases, it's just downright unethical. Now, to be fair, this title and the image that I have up here, it's a little tongue-in-cheek. I surely don't want to imply that sales reps are intentionally trying to deceive you, especially in the nonprofit technology sector. Just about every rep I've worked with has the best intentions to serve your mission through their products. However, demos, as I like to think about it, they're kind of like a first date. And generally speaking, on a first date, and it's been a little while for me, so I don't know if things have changed. But from what I remember, the first date wasn't where you brought a laundry list of all your problems and weaknesses and pet peeves and previous failed relationships. I don't know, maybe that comes up on the second date. But with product demos, sometimes you only get one shot. So if you're serious about a particular product and vendor, you better be ready with some questions. And now when I refer to a product demos, I'm speaking in the context of CRM systems, but know that these principles can really apply to any type of tech demo that you can think of. So with these things in mind, I think a key principle to remember as we go through this, and you'll hear me refer to this over and over, is that demos are not a spectator sport. The times when I've seen the biggest gap between the customer's expectation and what they ended up with is when the customer shows up to the demo with nothing. They just want to be impressed. They want to be wowed. And you know what? After a few presentations, yeah, you're likely to be wowed. You'll be wowed now and you'll be disappointed later, because demos are not, as I said, they're not a spectator sport. You need to be in the game. And what I've prepared for you are about 10 tips to make sure that you're engaged in the process and you're getting the most out of your product demo. All right, so the very first one, tip number one here, is prepare your use cases. So, let's face it, if you've been in the industry a little bit, you know a little bit about nonprofit technology, every system is going to have donation management, constituent management, and reporting. So no time wasting your demo on that. It's important for you to identify your biggest pain points as an organization and draft specific use cases for the vendor to cover. And that's something that you want to provide to them ahead of time. If you have trouble, let's say you have trouble surfacing your top influencers, or you need a good record of board member gifts, or you need a dashboard where gift officers can see where they are in relation to their quota. Put all those use cases down on paper and give those use cases to your sales rep who will be facilitating the demo. You want to find maybe the top 5 to 7 functions that you absolutely need on day one, and also those 5 to 7 things that you really, really struggle with now. And that's what you want. You build your use cases around, and that's what you want to give to the sales rep ahead of time so they can present those things to you. I'm reminded of a recent trip I took to India. And for any of you who have traveled and shopped over there, this image might look familiar to you. It is a typical store, clothing store. And when we last went, my wife was looking for a traditional suit in a turquoise color. And I saw the store owner, after we told them this is what we're looking for, this is the color that we have in mind, and this is what we need. I saw the store owner open and unfold dozens and dozens of beautiful suits, one after the other. And he would describe how in style this particular garment was, and how much work went into each piece, and how intricate the design was on each. And about 15 minutes of watching this, of one by one being unfolded and displayed, it dawned on me that this shop owner is likely going to show us every last garment in this store before he tells us that he does not have a turquoise suit. And demos are not much different. They are going to show you what they have, and it's very easy to get distracted on whatever is new and shiny at the moment. But at the end of the day, you've got a job to do, so it's important that you stay focused, submit your use cases ahead of time, and save everybody a ton of hours. All right. The next tip I have here is don't assume, clarify terms. What do I mean by that? Well, I would start by saying try to avoid any simple questions. Like, do you have event management? Do you have volunteer management? Do you support planned giving? Those types of yes/no questions are always going to get an answer of yes. What you need to do is, again, ask for the specific use case. Say, well, in my annual gala, I need to sit at my registration desk and mark people as attended as they arrive, or register them as new participants. Please show me how I can do that. And that's a very specific use case and not something that you can really mess around with. You either have it or you don't. I remember once I was watching a demo, and the sales rep said, oh, yes, we absolutely support volunteer management. And then he went into the system, he clicked on the events tab and created an event called Volunteer Project. He put a date on it, he started assigning people to it, and said, there you go. And while the use case might have been met, I guess you could say, and the customer was happy, I looked at that and said, okay, you don't really have a volunteer module. You are repurposing what you're using for events to serve the purpose of volunteers. And well, that might be fine, but I wouldn't say that you have a volunteer module. And what if I truly am using events? Do I want my events and volunteers mixed together? So these are the types of critical ways you have to look at the demo and make sure that you're not just throwing different terms out, you're also being very careful about the use case that's being presented. Also, there are terms like soft credit, solicitors, donor advised funds, matching gifts. We've all heard it. Most nonprofits use it, but it doesn't always mean the same thing for every organization. So again, stay away from words, stay away from yes/no questions, and really focus on the use cases. The next tip I have here is do your homework and identify any known flaws. So things are a little different now than it was many years ago. Most CRM vendors have their 1-hour overview demo somewhere either on their website or available on YouTube. Sometimes you might even need to register or download a white paper before you can have access to the demo, but definitely worthwhile. There's also many independent reports that can give you unbiased opinions on the different CRM systems out there. I would suggest doing that homework, watching those demos, and really try to know what the known flaws are before you have your demo with the vendor. That way you can stay away from all the fluff and really focus on those areas that they might struggle with. So for example, if one organization or one vendor has a product that has weak duplicate management functionality, or another one has a clumsy integration with their forms tool, focus all your efforts on that. All the bells and whistles, you can wait and see those on YouTube. All right, moving right along here. Tip number 4, watch your processes end to end in the demo. So full disclosure here, I am completely guilty of this one. Oftentimes, if you are demonstrating a complex multi-step process in a demo, sales reps may rig the end data in a way that makes it look like a process completed, even though it didn't actually happen. Surprise, surprise. Now, that's not trying to necessarily fool the client to make them think that something exists when it doesn't. But in the context of a high pressure demo where the stakes are super high, you may not want to take a chance of something accidentally going wrong or missing a step. It reminds me personally of those old cooking shows where, you know, they're baking a cake, they mix all the ingredients together for this amazing cake. And then as soon as they put it in the oven, you know, they have a completed cake nearby to show you what the finished cake looks like. Now, maybe there's a couple reasons for that. Obviously, you don't want to watch a show where you're watching a cake bake for 20 minutes. But on the other hand, they also don't want to pull that cake out of the oven and it not turn out the way that you expected. So it's always good to have that completed cake nearby. So demos are a little bit the same, but my advice to you, watch them bake the cake, beginning to end. If you want to see how mail merges work, ask them to walk you through the process end to end. Because if it is super complex and cumbersome, it's better for you to see that during the demo than after you go live when you have to complete 100 mail merges. Because this is feedback that I often get. Oh, you know, it looks so simple in the demo, but it took so many clicks when I had to do it myself. So the more you ask them to go through the process end to end, that's your best way to get a sense of how many clicks we're talking about. All right. Tip number 5 here, understand compatibility and integrations. This is another key one. I see this all the time, especially when it comes to tools like Salesforce. Everyone says they're compatible with Salesforce, or they say they're integrated with Salesforce. But there is a very wide spectrum of what compatibility and integration means. So integration could mean that there's a plug and play app that's available on the App Exchange, and it takes 10 minutes to configure, and then all of a sudden the data is flowing between your two systems. Great. Or integrated could mean that the APIs are in place, but oh, by the way, you have to purchase this third-party tool, which has separate licensing for it, and you need to spend about $50,000 on this one consultant who knows how to connect it for you. So there's a wide spectrum with integrations, and you want to make sure you are very clear with what you're getting into. And also when it comes to compatibility, I've seen some apps, and I won't name any names here, that say they're compatible with Salesforce, and sure enough, they are. You install their app, and within 15 minutes, boom, you can receive donations through their tool, and it flows into Salesforce. But oh, by the way, it creates this custom object in Salesforce, so the donations go in there. So they're kind of in a completely different place than where all the other donations are. And so if you want to run a report to see, you know, what donations a particular household or organization has given, you have to go in these two different places in order to calculate that. So to me, those are terrible integrations. They are not compatible, and you're better off without them altogether. So before somebody just says that their tool is compatible or they're integrated, you really, really want to know exactly what that means and see it with your own eyes. All right, moving on. Tip number 6, know what's included and what's not. And I've seen this time and time again. You see the flashy bells and whistles. Then when you get the system in place and you've gone live with it, the web forms look like an Atari game from the early 1980s. And when you ask, hey, these don't look like what we saw in the demo, you often hear, oh yeah, you'll need to upgrade to the upgraded forms package. Or, oh, you know, you need to send more than 5 emails a month. Oh, okay, well, you're gonna need to upgrade for that. Or, oh, you need more than one automated alert. Oh, there's an upgrade for that. And all of a sudden you've gone through all these upgrades, and what you've budgeted for is just simply not enough. Anybody who's made, you know, large purchases, you know, a car, a home, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And this is where you really want to make sure you know the price of things as you're going on. So I sometimes tell my sales rep up front, I'm assuming everything that you're about to show me is part of this base price. If anything is above and beyond that base price, you're going to need to let me know. Along those same lines, you want to know what's been customized in a demo. I don't know, again, kind of going back to the house comparison though, for anybody who's purchased a house and you've gone and you've seen a model home. I don't know. Some people really like to see a model home and see how nicely it's furnished and get a vision of what their house is going to look like. I don't. After seeing too many model homes that are really nicely furnished and interior decorated, I get confused. I'm not really sure what I'm getting. Sometimes I've even asked them, is there a house nearby that you're building of this same model that's completely unfurnished? Because I really want to know what I'm getting here. It's very confusing to see all these designs, and it gives me a wrong sense of exactly what I'm going to end up with. So I like my demos the same way, where some customers like a very highly customized demo that's really catered to them. I tell them, nope, I want you to show me what comes out of the box, and I want to see whether you can meet my use cases out of the box or not. That at least gives me a sense of what needs to be built once we have the system in place. So even if you do like those catered demos that have been customized for you, you want to clearly ask what's been customized and what's not. So you have a great sense of what's being demoed versus what you're going to end up with. Alrighty, we're coming up here on our last few tips. Number 8 is don't hesitate to request a follow-up demo. So if you're following all these other steps that I've provided here, or these other tips that I've provided you, it's very difficult to make all this happen in a 1-hour demo. So it's very natural to say, hey, we're going to need a second demo to go through a few more use cases, or maybe have some questions for you, or come up with use cases that we had not thought about previously. I know that 2 demos might seem like a lot, but this is something you can, as a courtesy, let your sales rep know up front and say, hey, this is part of our process, that we have a second demo for finalists. And that way you can at least get a sense if they're willing to play ball or not. If not, and they're not willing to spend the time, you can rule them out up front. But asking for that second follow-up demo is always a good practice. For our 9th tip here, we recommend creating a demo review committee. No matter how sure you might be about a particular application, it's always helpful to have another set of eyes. Those folks who are going to view the demo from a different lens. When it comes to user interfaces and visuals, I know what appeals to me. I know it in the first few minutes whether I'm going to like something or not. But you know what? I'm not the one entering checks all day into a system. So it's good to get the right people in the room who can look at things from their perspective. Ideally, it's good to have a committee that's cross-functional, and at the same time, it's also good to keep that group small, contained, and ideally the same people who are watching all the demos. So together you can really make an educated comparison. So the demo review committee is definitely a strong suggestion. And last but not least, if you're really following the tips that I've provided up to this point, you kind of get the trend here that this is almost not a demo anymore. And I sometimes have that conversation with the sales reps up front and say, ultimately, we're not looking for a demo. We're not looking for you to wow us. We need a working session. We're going to present you our use cases, and we want to work through those with you step by step. You come and show us how you've addressed those use cases, and then we're going to work together to make sure we're all 100% clear on how that on whether that really meets our needs or not. And it's going to happen over a couple demos. And usually getting out up front, it at least makes it very clear what you're looking for, and you'll see how the different sales reps respond. Some of them say, oof, I'm definitely not going to spend that much time, because it does take a lot more time from the vendor than if they're just giving a canned presentation. Then you might have other vendors who say, okay, it's a good idea, but clearly looking at your use cases, we cannot meet what you're looking for. Well, that might be good too. At least you're not going to waste your time with them. And then you're going to find those sales reps who love this. They thrive on this. They don't want to be guessing exactly what you're looking for, and they want to have a very guided working session with you. So those are the ones who are really going to enjoy this process, and I think you'll get the most out of your session that way. So again, move away from this demo concept and really ask for a working session. So those are our 10 tips, and I hope you found it helpful. I've made everything that we've seen here, look really easy and sound really easy, but I realize that it's not. The truth is, the 10 tips that I told you does take some legwork, and not every nonprofit has the luxury to invest in that time. So it might be wise to enlist a consultant who can be your trusted partner throughout this process. Just someone who can give you some honest guidance and really be in your corner throughout this process. And this is a service amongst many of our services that we offer at 1/10. We handle everything from strategic guidance to implementations of your CRM system to change management, training, and user adoption. We are a registered Salesforce and Salesforce.org consulting partner, but we do work with many other systems that are popular with the nonprofits that we work with. So in closing here, I usually save this time for questions and answer and discussion, but this is a pre-recorded demo, so we'll move on. You know, I do want to just say something here before we wrap up. For those of you who are N10 members, you've heard and read that the NTC conference actually does bring in 62% of N10's annual budget. So the conference cancellation in March has been really devastating to the organization. So if you do have a few dollars to spare, I encourage you to make a donation to N10. If you're like me and we're planning to attend the conference, you know, please consider donating back part or all of your registration fee. They've been a great platform for so many of us in the sector, so I'm hoping we can support them in their time of need. And for my last slide here, I went through. You'd like to have a further discussion about this, you'd like to learn more about our services, I encourage you to give us a call. You know, and just schedule a no pressure phone consultation. We have our information up here. Be sure to follow us on social media as well. And you know, even if you don't have any active technology products in the works right now, not a problem. We do have a blog that we constantly update with different insights and articles that you might find helpful. So it might be good to check that out. You know, webinars as well, like this one. And the materials out there might help you gather your thoughts or give you something to think about before you're ready to start your next project. With that, again, I'd like to thank you for your time. Have a great rest of your day.